where we're going to talk about tackling the bidding talent gap through innovation. And I'm sort of joined by Will, Karen, and Vidya, who I'm going to just ask to introduce themselves. So Will.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm the business development manager at Zico Law, which is a regional law firm in Southeast Asia. We have about 400 lawyers. Our BD team is fairly small, but because of that, we had to make things quite efficient. So we've used lots of technology in pitching and all of that. So that is me. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, thank you, Will. And then Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Morton. I'm head of marketing and business development for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Hogan Lovells, the global top 10 law firm, and have handle a phenomenal number of pitches every year. So yeah, delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Christopher.
Brilliant. And Vidya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Vidya Ledsham. I'm a director in our clients and markets team at McCarthy Tétrault. I've been told that our logo is cut off, so the full name is McCarthy Tétrault. We're a national law firm in Canada with around 650 lawyers, offices all across Canada. In my portfolio, I help to manage our national proposals team. And I also have a couple of other business development things under my portfolio as well, but we're talking about pitches today, so I'll keep it to pitches.
Brilliant, thank you. So I guess we cover the world. We've got global players, we've got national players, we've got regional players. So we should, from a sort of pitching point of view and bidding perspective, we should be able to share sort of, I guess, the differences and the similarities around that. Just one thing I don't think either of you have really talked through is how big your sort of pitch and bid teams are and how you organize yourselves and relate to the wider marketing team. So Vidya, you sort of started on that. Do you want to just round that out, and then we'll sort of go to Karen?
Sure. We have a national centralized proposal team, but our proposal writers are scattered all across the country. We have a team of 6 proposal writers who are fully dedicated to pitches and proposals. We also have other BD resources across the country that, if for some reason our proposals team can't handle the volume, we in theory can rely on them, but we really try not to, because it's just really hard to write a pitch if you're not doing them regularly. We also have a client service delivery team, which is responsible for our pricing. So our proposals team doesn't do our pricing. We have other professionals, pricing professionals, who do that, and we work collaboratively with them.
Brilliant. So Karen.
Yep. Great. Yeah, so we have a centralized pitches and pursuits team, which is embedded within our wider sales transformation program. And the reason this is to make sure we kind of have a good connection between our BD efforts and our pitching efforts. So the centralized team, they really focus on global strategic complex pitches, particularly for our major clients. Primarily because they are a small but perfectly formed team, so they can't handle all the competitive pitches that come into the firm. So that means that the pitches that aren't handled by our super team are handled by the practice, sector and regional teams as well. So we'll go into more about what that means further on in the session.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Will.
Holy cow, well, I take the opposite side of the spectrum here. So our BD marketing team is about 4.5 people for 400 lawyers. So our pitching and stuff we do in collaboration with our lawyers. So the BD team is sort of brought on to help with proposals when it's regional in nature, multi-jurisdictional, or a little bit more, complex. So, our team, like I said, we're quite small, so we rely on lots of different tools and different tricks to sort of make this process a little bit more efficient.
Cool. Well, I'm sure that efficiency thing is going to it is going to be a big topic for today. But just before we launch into that, we've got a really quick poll that we would like you as participants just to complete. So Charlotte, can you throw up the poll? So hopefully that's come up. Just as panelists, we can't vote. Our opinion doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully 2 really simple questions. And we'll come back to those in a bit. So one thing I guess we need to be really clear about at the outset is, what do we define as a pitch? And I guess, Karen, you sort of have made a distinction around your centralized team and the sort of sector and practice areas. How does Hogan Lovells define a pitch? And
well, I think we have much more a greater focus on what we call competitive pitches, where in terms of our definition, there's usually a fee proposal associated with a pitch, and there's a clear kind of win or lose outcome. So we do track, credential statements and things like that, but though we've really dramatically reduced the number of kind of credential statements we send out, and there is just a really focus on pitches where there is a clear outcome and a clear opportunity to win work. That's kind of our day. It goes beyond that, but I think in simplified terms, that's what we're really looking at.
Fantastic. And Will, in your automation world, have you defined it differently?
Same sort of thing, but we sort of expanded out. So when we do send out the capability statement for someone asking for banking credentials or something, we do log that in. Just as for us, we sort of see that as sort of a pursuit, right? This is someone who actually came to us. So the BD team has that company, in our radar, as it were, and we try to follow up, build relationships with people, and maybe turn that into an official sort of RFP sort of opportunity.
And Vidya?
I think that our firm maybe takes the slightly broader definition. Basically, anything that we have to customize to the client's needs, we kind of consider a pitch. So sometimes it is more credentially, and it's really about making that introduction and growing the relationship with the client. Most of the time, though, we are dealing with things that have a real win or loss at the end. So very similar to what Karen said, but maybe slightly broader.
Fantastic. So what we're just going to do is quickly go to the results from the sort of survey. So I guess the first question was, are firms struggling with finding, do they have a shortage of talent? And 70%, 71% said yes. And people are dealing with that in sort of various sort of ways. So this should be a really sort of good session. And I guess what's interesting about it for me is this resonates with some of the feedback I've got from some of the friends in the recruitment sector. So I was talking to the guys at Totem, and they sort of have said that they're as busy as ever, and they're really in a way struggling to fill some of the roles, and particularly in the legal sector, where people are being nicked by the accountancy firms, and the big four accountancies are massively expanding their bid teams, which I guess is likely to produce a challenge for us in the legal sector, because I guess we're rich pickings. And then there was some interesting stuff on LinkedIn. I thought this was terrific, actually. 34% of all current top 100 law firm marketing jobs have had 0 applications, which is, and even HR fares better in terms of number of applications for roles on LinkedIn. So we clearly need to do something about it. And I guess Vidya and well, I guess all three of you have sort of said, well, we're trying to be really focused about what we pitch for. And Will, you've talked a bit about that, implementing technologies to speed up the process. So shall we move on to, I guess, how you see things are changing? So Pinnacle did a pitch management report, and I guess everyone who completed that said that they were tracking their pitching, and that there should be, one assumes therefore you've all got trends. And so what are you seeing in the way of trends, Vidya?
Oh, well, I guess the first major trend is just the astronomical increase in volume that we're seeing, especially around the time of COVID. We just saw everything going to RFP, or asking for even casual pitches on things we probably wouldn't have had to pitch on before. Between 2019 and 2021, we saw a 65% increase in proposal volume, which is really high. And of course, it's COVID and a pandemic, so our headcount has to remain flat when times are uncertain. So we had to find really creative ways to deal with that increasing volume without burning out our whole team. Which is, that's probably another topic in today's talk. But in addition to just the crazy increase in volume, we're also seeing crazy turnaround times. So we'll get something on like a Friday afternoon with the expectation from clients that it's coming back on Monday morning, or, which is technically a one-day turnaround. And also the questions are getting more and more specific. Like very specific questions that are very much asking for, at least preliminary legal advice without having to pay for it. Exactly. And then lastly, we're seeing more and more questions that are like, just, we don't want any marketing fluff. We want this to be concise. There's a page limit or a word count on many questions, or they're giving you a template to complete because it's just easier for them to compare firm to firm when it's not a free for all. So those are the main things we're seeing.
And Karen, does that sort of resonate with you? And are you within Hogan Lovells, are you seeing differences across the geographies?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I agree with Vidya. I mean, the pandemic has created some change that we haven't seen before. I mean, I think we definitely noticed that at least in the first year of the pandemic, clients were sticking to the firms that they knew and loved. And so that was kind of reflected in a strong win rate for, our biggest, largest clients, which is not surprising. But yeah, interested in what the delegates have said in terms of what they're doing to kind of help some of the pitch. Yeah, pitch numbers are undoubtedly going up, particularly the competitive pitches, which, as Vidya said, we are seeing an increasing complexity in the pitches. Not only are we now pitching to get on panels, we're also pitching to get individual pieces of work when we're on a panel. So we're seeing more of that. There's a lot of procurement involvement in pitches, which often increases the complexity and sometimes the length of time that pitches are taking to, from start to conclusion. We're seeing a few more rounds in terms of negotiation. So there's definitely increasing complexity. Having said that, I think, we have seen some pitches where, I do kind of wonder how the organizations digest all the data they're getting from the many firms pitching. More recently, we are seeing some clients putting a cap on the number of pages, which I think is a relief, and, not asking for as much information. But yeah, I think, echoing what I think we've seen some of the delegates responding to, we are more rigorous about what we pitch for. And you know, we know when to bow out graciously. If we're not the right firm, we will say so, and we use that to help build trusting relationships. And that also helps increase our pitch win rate. We don't pitch for things where we know, and we'll come on to it, but I think that's where the role of tech and data can really help in driving the go, no go decision process. So, you know, it's not just we don't want to pitch for this. We know that, you know, there's a reason why we shouldn't be pitching for this kind of work. And so that's helping, I think, mitigate some of the you know, the just, yeah, explosion in pitch RFPs.
Yeah. And Will, from a Asian sort of regional point of view, how does that sort of
same
contrast?
sort of trends, and same sort of trends in terms of volume, but you know, we see some of the practice groups go up, some go down, as you know, as expected. A lot of project type work from China sort of paused for a bit, and now starting to pick up a bit more. So all of those sort of expected things happen. We have seen a lot of more interest in our fee arrangements, right? A lot of clients were getting a lot of RFPs to say, okay, we want to see all of your VAT, all of the tax, all of the disbursements in the fee, right? Capped fee. So they don't want any of these sort of surprises. So we're seeing, you know, a lot of in that way. Also, surprisingly, we're seeing more clients ask about our internal policies, like show us your ESG policy if you have one. You know, what is your data privacy policy? Can you share with us how you manage the technology, how you manage everything internally for IP? You know, what is your docketing system? So they're all interested in that sort of aspect, which I think is a bit of a new trend as well. So everything Karen and Vidya said, and those two as well.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I think, you know, in addition to the pandemic, I think you alluded to, well, that the global focus on ESG is actually changing the nature of what we're actually pitching, which is quite interesting. But yeah, pitching for ESG, you have to have strong.
Yeah, so that led us to think, well, okay, can we take a certain percent of those fees and donate it to the charity of that client's choice? And you know, anything we can do to try and sort of differentiate ourselves. And we've seen some good success in doing that sort of thing.
I think what's sort of interesting for me about what you've all said is, you know, the volume of the number of pitches are increasing, but you're all being quite scientific about, or at least being quite scientific, or trying to be, about which ones you go for. And my guess is that in part that's around constrained resources, and you want to use them in the best way possible. And yes, and this thing about them becoming more and more shorter, because I think, to your point, Karen, the pitches that we used to do at Simmons, you know, some of them you go, well, how are you going to take all of that data and line it up against 15 firms and come to any scientific conclusion? There's too much for you to process here, and there are too many words.
Yeah.
Maybe our ESG policies will end up with a word count imposed by the clients. That would be good.
I mean, we are starting to see that cap on word limits and page numbers, which, you know, brings its own pressures, but I think it's good. It's going in the right direction, right? And you're right. I think it makes it so much easier for the clients to compare and contrast.
So if we just sort of turn to the challenges, what challenges are being created for you through these sort of changes? So I guess we've got pandemic sort of driven type of changes. But I guess there's something about what the new normal will look like. But in a way, from a sort of people, process, and technology point of view, what challenges do you see, Will?
Well, you know, with our limited headcount and increasing number of proposals, it's all about, as I mean, we've said on this call 3-4 times, concise, right? making this proposal as concise and useful to the client, right? So that anyone in the in the company can read it, not just the lawyers, right? So even the business teams can understand what we're talking about when they read our proposal. So making them concise and getting the correct credentials on there. So not spending 30 minutes trying to find which credentials are relevant to the proposal, where we can set up a system where we can just filter out what credentials or filter in credentials that we want to see. So when when I get the document, I can take 20 minutes to edit the executive summary, right, for that client. Check out the client's credentials online, learn a little bit about the client. Is this a client that we actually even want to have in the firm, right? So, I can take more of my time, not just pulling everything together and making the document, but actually editing it and making it a bit more tailored, and then, passing it off to the lawyer to do their final touches, and then sending it off to the client. So, yeah, so those are the challenges, is making a bit more client-focused document, as opposed to just cookie cutter boilerplate text that we just sort of threw together to meet the deadline.
And Vidya, what challenges are you?
I think, well, everything that Will just said, for sure. I think just because of the volume, I guess like most of our challenges are volume related. We have a small pitch team and a lot of pitches coming in, and that means that we worry constantly about our team burning out. Proposals are very intense, and like even myself, I could do them for a couple of years and then I was like, I need something else. I can't work these hours. This is crazy. So we worry about the team a lot, and helping them achieve work-life balance. We've had to implement like on-call weekends for our proposal writers, so that not everybody was constantly checking their emails on the weekends. It was just kind of on one person, and then they would get the following weekends off. We try to utilize our time zones, because if we start a pitch in the east, maybe we can use our western resources to finish it off, so that our eastern resources don't have to work too late. Just trying to get creative about things like that, and then also building on that, just really trying to emphasize the idea of collaboration, and like proposal writing is a very solo art, or it historically has been a very solo art, and we've tried to break those walls down so that people feel less alone. I find a lot of proposal writers tend to be introverted, but that doesn't mean that they don't want people in their lives. Like, everybody needs people and communication and collaboration. So that's been a big focus of our team. I guess process wise, we've really tried to centralize the process so that everybody is just coming to the proposals team directly, and we're not dealing with too many other stakeholders. Too many cooks in the kitchen can get difficult. And technology wise, I would say, the only reason we can handle the volume that we've been handling is because of the technology that we have in place. But then our technology requires upkeep. So we can use the technology to cut our drafting time down by half, which is amazing, but then we constantly have to make sure that we have the right content in there, so our proposal writers kind of have to balance the idea of working on proposals, but also making sure they're not slacking off on getting the right content or updating the content regularly as well. So it's a bit of a balance. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, amazing. I guess the bit that I think is really interesting is that sort of whole burnout, and we'll come back to those sort of people, those deep sort of people bits in a second. Karen, how are things at Hogan's around these challenges?
Yeah, no, busy, like we've heard, and I think, yeah, just picking up on what Vidya said, I think that we are seeing much more of a drive towards kind of grab and go starting content, but really high quality, so really strong pre-drafted content that people can easily access. So then, whether you're the pitch specialist or BD, practice sector regional, or lawyer, or PA, whoever you are working on a pitch or partner, that you actually can spend your time just tweaking and tailoring and refining and finessing and not drafting from scratch. That's been really helpful. But I guess the challenge, one of the real challenges looking at this from a regional perspective is that, in my team in EMEA, I have often one BD person in a jurisdiction where the pitches are in the local language. And so having this wealth of amazing content in English isn't necessarily always, helping them. I mean, it is, because there's something to start from. But I think that's the challenge actually for, being a single person in an office where pitches are needing to be done in local language and video. Yeah, we do what you do, and we will, work with the Sun and send pitches around the globe. So people aren't working through the night. But if you don't have anybody else that can draft in your language, that is a challenge. So and I do think there's potential tech solutions with the translation, really strong translation tools, for example, there. But in addition,
Google Translate.
Well, a bit more than that, but I think there's things we can do so people don't have to totally draft from scratch. But I think the other thing is really good pitch process, actually, like I say. So our local BD teams do have support from associates or PAs who can easily help also turn their hand, because the process is there, the precedents are there, and like I say, we're getting increasing data on a local level to be able to help make decisions around go no go as well.
Cool. I just before we sort of move on, someone's asked a question, which is, we're talking about the volume quite a bit, and how and the question is, how many pitches and RFPs are we talking about on a yearly basis? I guess to give that context, because Hogan Lovells is in a completely different scale to other firms. So if we sort of said, how many pitches are you as a firm doing, and how many pitch specialists do you have? So and maybe how many lawyers? As part of our pitch management report, I had a metric which was pitches per lawyer. I don't know whether you're happy to.
It would be well over one pitch a lawyer then on that basis for Hogan Lovells, and given we have over 3,000 lawyers. Yeah, and we track most of them, but not all of them get tracked, right? So I think on a tracking basis, it's probably just less than one a lawyer, but on the ones that don't get tracked, it would take it well over. But that's that's everybody, that's all lawyers. So if you then average that by the partners, we do thousands of pitches a year, but they're not all to the same scale, right? So we've just talked about what constitutes a pitch or not, and we do include credential documents. So yeah, but we do thousands of pitches, but we have thousands of lawyers, so you would expect that.
And how many pitch specialists would you say you've got?
We, in our central team, we have around 10.
Okay. So that would be effectively 300. If we say that you do roughly 3,000
if they
pitches,
did them all, yeah.
If they did them all, it would be about
that's why it's
300 each.
So that's why it's shared out across the entire marketing and BD team and beyond, quite frankly. Yeah. So yeah, but the in terms of the pitches they handle, like I said, it's the higher value major RFPs. So no, don't worry, we don't have people on our team doing single-handedly thousands of pitches on their own. We do spread it out, but yeah, it's the kind of some people do more volume and some people do more
quality.
No, they're all quality. Obviously,
sorry,
they're all
complexity.
Very high quality.
Complexity.
They're higher. Yeah, they're more complexity. Yeah.
So, and Vidya, just in terms of you started off by saying, I think that volumes were up 65%.
I'm having anxiety from Karen's answer. Like that's crazy. the amount of pitches that you deal with. I just did the math. I pulled up my calculator. So we have 0.66 of a proposal per lawyer. So almost one proposal per lawyer, but not quite there yet.
Cool. And how big's your sort of central pitch team? I can't remember whether you said that or and I missed it.
That's okay. We have 6 proposal writers. We did around 400 proposals last year with those 6 proposal writers. And we also have a proposal coordinator who helps, you know, do the bios and like pull together maybe a rough first draft and things like that. So that's been a big help as well. Just having someone at a more junior level to basically be an extra set of hands for all of the proposals.
Brilliant. And Will, just to give,
not to that scale. So just for the BD team, right, we're probably doing 1 or 2 a day, but those are not very sophisticated, right? And the lawyers send out proposals themselves, so we just don't have the visibility on that. And sometimes we'll even just send out a fee estimate through email, right? Just so we just don't know. But from the BD team, which is like 4.5 people, we're probably doing 1 or 2 a day.
brilliant. And how big's that, your BD team? I can't remember whether you said.
About 4.5.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Hopefully we have answered that question. So just sort of moving on, what are you guys focused on in terms of addressing the challenges? So Vidya, you talked a bit about the people and the burnout. How is sort of staff retention in the pitch and proposal world? Because it strikes me that.
Yeah, I definitely can. So we've actually been okay lately. I think, you know, it ebbs and flows with each clients and markets team. You know, some years are really great retention wise, some years you lose some people and it's just natural. So I think that our retention right now is good. Hopefully it's good. If any of my team are watching, it's good, right? And in terms of like increasing headcount, we're currently not looking to increase headcount. But we do a lot. I think we do a lot to help with retention. Like I mentioned, the culture of collaboration that we've built, it's one of the things that I think really differentiates us in the market. And when we pull people from other firms or we recruit people who'd been at other firms previously, they always kind of mention that, like, you know, they were kind of on an island at their previous firm. And then when they come to our firm, they are just amazed that they have all of these people to kind of lean on and are such a close-knit team. So that's one of the things I mentioned, you know, the on-call weekends that we've implemented, which we hated doing because we don't want our people working on weekends. Like we aren't lawyers. We don't get paid like our lawyers get paid. We want people to have weekends and evenings to be with their family. So we've done that to try to mitigate the impact. And also, I have to say, retention-wise, and when we're in the recruiting process, one of our main differentiators is our proposal technology, actually. And we end up using it in the recruitment process to kind of talk about how it's easier and how you can focus on the part of proposals that are most interesting to people is being strategic and solving the puzzle and customizing the work. It's not the first draft is never anyone's favorite part, right? So so we use that as a selling point for our firm and why people should come to our firm. So
great.
That's
Thank
us.
you. And Will.
Yeah, because we work with our lawyers a lot, right, on proposals. I think the biggest challenge would be sort of just managing the pitch, right? The project management aspect of it. If you have like 4 lawyers in 4 different jurisdictions, sending emails back and forth. Oh, did you get your fee proposal? I didn't get your fee estimate. Oh, that's a bit too high. You know, just how do we manage that? So last year we sort of walked through exactly our proposal process and trying to fine tune and tinker. So I'd love to talk to Karen and Vidya offline about how they've set their systems up. But yeah, so for us with a small team working with the lawyers, the main challenge is really just getting that project management and taking some of the burden off the lawyers.
And I guess given that your team, from I guess from what you've described, in a way much more general sort of BD folk as opposed to
yeah, because I'm
specifically
doing
pitch.
yeah, I'm doing website updates, event management, all the hats that a BD person wears on top of proposals. But we sort of have this understanding that if an RFP comes in, that's what we get to focus, that's what the focus will be. Everything sort of drops and we just sort of focus on that proposal, just out of necessity and, getting more work in.
So how do you, I guess video's got a really stable world, which is wonderful and lovely. How do you bring people up to speed with, because my guess is somebody joins your firm, how do they know where to find that stuff?
Yeah, so I've done a few trainings, proposal trainings, because we have sort of a mishmash of technology that sort of all works okay together, but you do need someone to walk you through how to use it. So it's not as sophisticated as Pitch Perfect and things like that. But yeah, we have a video training deck and all of that good stuff. And like I said, our team's not too big, so when someone does come in, I'll just walk them through the go no go process and all of that good stuff.
And Karen, you must have loads of challenges. Just in terms of that sort of size and scale and sort of volume and
look, I don't want to jinx it, but our pitch team has been relatively stable, and in fact we've been adding roles as opposed to replacing, which is good. I don't lead the team, so I can't take the credit, but they are awesome. They are definitely the gold standard, and like I say, the doyens of pitching world. But they're a really collaborative, strong team, and seeing the way they onboard people, and it's done, because as Christopher, you said, I joined from Simmons & Simmons, and even a firm coming from a firm that size to the scale of Hogan Lovells can be quite daunting. But I think they have a really great shadowing process, so nobody is just thrown in the deep end. They are really supported through their first 3 pitches, no matter how senior they are, actually, because there's a lot about just learning where everything is, our systems, our processes, getting to know the firm. So I think they do a really great job of onboarding, and just a super collaborative, awesome team. And so, yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but they have been quite stable. But yeah, and the other thing is, like I say, we do see a higher pitch win rate when the pitch team is involved, and partly that is because they are working on pitches for our biggest clients, and we know when and when not to pitch, but also just what they're doing is really impressive. And I think that's actually pretty motivating to if you're in pitches, you want to win pitches, right? So yes. Being somewhere where you can do that, I think is, and I would say our lawyers are very good at giving credit where credit's due, winning big major panels. They do a huge shout out and a public shout out to the awesome people who've worked on the pitch, whether it's pitch lead, M&BD, LPM, pricing, alternative delivery. So many people get involved in the bigger pitches, and I think our partners are very good at giving praise where praise is due, and I think that's pretty motivating. So yeah, we do have our challenges, but we also have some things that I think hope motivate and retain people.
And I guess you guys are using loads of technology to try and coordinate this stuff globally.
We are, yes. Yeah, we do use a lot of technology, and so there has been gone through a process of some systems are local, some are global, but moving more towards the global systems that everybody can access, everybody can use. They're accessing the same data points, like you say, the grab and go system, making sure it's consistently kept up to date, and our global pitch system isn't just about putting in content and keeping the content up to date. Like I've said, we use it in quite a sophisticated way to help drive decision making processes. So yeah, I mean, tech is critical, and it'll become even more critical. And as I say, you can't do everything by pitch. I don't think you can just kind of plug in some numbers and out pops the pitch you need. You need it to be tailored, and you need it to be exactly what the client's looking for. And tech will become increasingly sophisticated to help with that, but there's always going to be a need for some tinkering at the edges, and I think that's where we're heading towards.
And I guess those sort of cultural nuances, be it the client's cultural nuances or the geographic nuances.
Well, and the language, like I've said, all those factors.
No system's ever going to be able to do that. So just as we sort of wrap up, I guess, what things are you doing? You've mentioned, I guess, a bit about grab and go. I guess, is it true to say that everyone is trying to get their lawyers to be more and more self-servicing, or is it a case of actually we think we should, we know best?
I think there's a role, it's not necessarily about saying, oh, here you go, do it yourself, but we definitely do work more with associates, more in terms of their understanding of the pitching process. Actually, it helps with their knowledge of the firm as well if they get involved in pitches. And so, yeah, I think it's not just a case of here's some tech, you do it yourself. It's a combination of actually there are some processes and systems in place that make it easier for whoever is doing the tailoring, as I previously mentioned. But yeah, that certainly helps, whether it's PA, associate, MBD, pitch specialist.
And Will, are you wanting your fee earners to be more self-servicing, freeing up your time?
Well, I mean, because they've already have their hands deep in proposals. So for us, we're trying to, lessen that burden. But it, like as Karen said, it's really good for the lawyers to actually do the proposals every now and then, right? To know about the firm, to figure out, what the client is actually looking for. One thing that we've been trying to do is, reach out to the client before we even send them a document, right? Try to get their sense of how they want to be priced, or how we should price the pitch, and try to let them hear the price before they actually read the price. So we're trying to do some interesting things in that regard, and we've seen some pretty good success in that. So yeah, lots of different things, but generally let the lawyers do the lawyering. That's what they went to school for. And I think the BD team, we kind of speak the business language, and we can make something a little bit more sexy and beautiful that normal people will want to read.
And Vidya, are you similarly doing sort of I guess trying to free up the lawyers from pitching, or are you wanting them to be self-servicing?
I don't think that we're at self-servicing yet. I think that we kind of I think it's more like very similar to Will, like they're experts in law, and that's why they have the jobs they have, and our team are experts in proposals. So we very much a collaborative effort. We use Pitch Perfect, and we haven't we intentionally have not extended Pitch Perfect to be accessible by all of the lawyers, because not that we're controlling, I don't want to say controlling, but a proposal tends to be better when it's a collaborative effort. We find sometimes, our lawyers go off and they draw up a proposal, and it's very good, but it's very much about only the expertise, and we help to bring that client perspective into it. So I hope our lawyers agree. If any, I doubt any of them are watching, but if any of them are watching, I hope you agree that our proposals are better quality, and we have a better win rate when we work collaboratively together.
And I think just picking up on something Will said, right, that the document is just one part of the pitch, right? The whole interaction with the client pre-pitch, during pitch, post-pitch, you know, the years before of relationship building, the delivery of what you're saying you're going to deliver in the pitch. You know, there's a whole range of it, of this, and I think we definitely moved beyond the days of lawyers going, flick, here you go, BD, do this pitch for me, to you know, more engagement in the this is where this pitch opportunity came from, and this is the conversation I've been having with the client, and this is the kind of things we need to be reflecting in the pitch, and that's the kind of journey that we're still going on, and hence why I said at the beginning, our pitch team is embedded in our kind of wider sales transformation team, because it is all about pursuit, opportunity, spotting, pursuits. The document is a part of it if there is a document, but yeah, the kind of broader picture.
I think that's sort of really interesting, and I guess is a really sort of good way of wrapping up, which is it's all about the people, both our people with the client, but also our people internally working together and collaboratively, and using, you know, and the dialogue to shape everything so that it meets the client need, but also we've taken the best from everybody, whether that's a BD specialist who, talking to the headhunters, are like hen's teeth, and we need to hang on to them and nurture them and give them the tools to allow them to do their job as efficiently and effectively as possible. Because I think every one of you said we've got more pitches than we've ever had, and I don't think any of you sort of said, well, actually we see the new normal being fewer of them. I'm not sure I asked the question, but I don't hear anybody saying we're going to get fewer pitches.
Not from recent history, I would guess that.
That's only getting more from here, I think.
So I'm going to wrap it up there, but thank you, all three of you, for what I hope for everyone has been a really engaging sort of conversation about the talent piece of sort of pitching. This, as I said at the outset, is the first of 3 or 4 webinars around the pitch management process. If any of anybody on the call wants to take part in the sort of pitch management research that we're doing, then please just drop us a line and we'll tell you how to go about doing that. But thank you very much, Will, Karen, and Vidya, and everybody else for joining us.